Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. If you want to give me your WhatsApp voice note, please try to record when you are in a quiet environment without a lot of background noises. The following story, it comes from a translation of a WhatsApp voice note that I received. This voice note, it is quite a long voice note, so it will take a little bit of time for it to be fully translated. If you see one of our admins not responding to your messages in time, then they might be busy. The message reads like this: even though the pastor had told me that I should wait for him and he will come back to me, I waited and I waited for him, but it didn't take long before I started having a lot of bad dreams. In these dreams that I was having, I kept on seeing myself in one forest, and I was always being chased by animals that I could not even recognize. In the way that I could survive in these nightmares, I myself then would transform myself from being a scared woman, then I would become an animal, a snake in particular. After I had transformed myself to become a snake, then I'll start to eat those snakes that were chasing me in those dreams. The dreams kept on repeating themselves, and all of those dreams, they were dreams that were full of wars, only trouble, without peace. And then one day, me, my mother, and my mother's sister, we were just sitting outside drinking tea early in the morning. When I wanted to tell her about my dreams, I was afraid, and I was still thinking of a way to hide the fact that I knew this man that I was sleeping with in my dreams, because this man that kept on appearing in my dreams, after I had transformed myself and became a snake, I'll see another snake coming from another direction. Then with that snake, I will start to have intercourse. But after having intercourse, we will transform back into our human bodies. Then I will see that the other snake was the pastor. These dreams kept on coming back to me. So I didn't want my mother to know what me and that pastor had done concerning the pregnancy that I had carried for 4 days. A day after I had given birth, my mother had seen blood in the toilet because I had quickly rushed to the toilet. Per day, I was changing pads about 3 times. I had to change sanitary pads. So when I felt that the sanitary pad that I had on, it was full of blood, I rushed to the toilet. Then I changed that sanitary pad and I flushed the toilet, but I didn't flush the sanitary pad into the toilet. I just placed it in a small plastic, intending to go and throw it away in the nearby bushes. But after I had flushed the toilet, I didn't double check to see if all of the blood that I had left in the toilet was gone. So after I had gotten out of the toilet, my mom also went into the toilet. That is when she saw that there was blood all over the toilet seat. Then she called me and she was really angry at me. But what she didn't know is that I was still bleeding just like a woman who had recently given birth. But I had lied to her when she called me and when she said that I was supposed to clean up the mess that I had left in the toilet. I lied to her that I was having this problem of heavy bleeding. She only complained about me messing up the toilet, but even my breasts at that time, they were full of milk. But the baby that I had given birth to, I had never touched it. Neither had I even looked at that baby. I had only heard its cries before it was taken by that pastor. So this thing was too complicated for me to start explaining the whole scenario to my mother. As I was thinking about all of these things that had happened in my life, my mother then started telling us her dreams, because my mom always told me that before you tell anyone about your dreams, you are supposed to check your time. You are not supposed to reveal your dreams if the sun is too hot. So when it was still early in the morning, my mom then said, before I forget, let me tell you about this strange dream that I had. My mom then said that she saw herself, she was in a car, but the man who was driving the car was a half man and the other part of his body was a half demon. My mom said that this man's body was covered with thorns. Thick thorns covered his body, but the thorns were inserted deep into his body such that she could only see blood dripping from where the thorns were inserted. My mom then asked the man who was driving her. She said, "Who are you? Where are you driving me to? Who are you? And what has happened to your body? Are you injured? Has someone stabbed you?" Because my mom could not understand how this man had thorns that were so thick all over his body. Why was he covered in such thorns that were as thick as big knives? When my mother saw that the man who was driving the car was being uncooperative because my mom was sitting at the back seat, that is when she leaned forward. Then she tried to touch that man's shoulder. Something strange happened to her hand. She said that as he was stretching her hand towards that man, her hand then transformed and it became a snake. That snake then twisted itself and it turned around so as to face my mother. When that snake looked at my mother, my mom said that the snake then spoke with her and said, "You are going to hell." Then her hand started to twist itself uncontrollably. My mom said that when her hand was twisting itself uncontrollably, it was really painful. That was when my mother woke up. When she woke up, she was screaming out loud because of the pain she felt when her hand was busy twisting itself. My mom said that when she woke up, she saw that the curtains to her bedroom window were opened. So my mom used to have two curtains, one that was a see-through curtain and the second one was a normal heavy curtain. So by the time that my mother woke up, she saw that the heavy curtain had been pulled to the side, and on the windowsill she saw a cat that was sitting. This cat was sitting just outside, but the cat was peeping through the window as if the cat was looking at her. This was no longer a dream, but everything was now happening in reality. My mother looked so stressed, but my mother's sister said that she will speak with another woman whom she went to church with. She knew that this woman was someone who could interpret dreams and she was a prophet, but she was not just a regular prophet. She was one of those people who wear the red garments, the ones that are famous for this go back to senders. My mother's sister said she didn't have airtime. It was quite unfortunate, for if she had airtime, she was going to speak with that woman so that she can give my mom the interpretation of the dreams. So I said to my mother's sister, "It is fine, auntie. Let me go to the tuck shop and I will buy the airtime for you." Instead of me sending some of the kids that were playing around the yard, then I said, "Let me go." Even my mom said, "Why don't you send one of the kids so that they can quickly rush and go and buy the airtime?" And I lied to my mom that I just wanted to stretch my legs a little bit, so I went to the tuck shop alone. After buying the airtime, I then called that pastor because I felt as if I was missing him. He then told me that when he received my call, he was about to call me because he was the man who was in my mother's dream. He then told me all the things that I was supposed to do. He said, "Where you are right now, do not take another step, but I want you to grab some soil. After you have grabbed the soil, I want you to spit on the soil that you will be holding in your hands. After that, just keep that soil until you have entered into your mom's yard. Before you have entered into your mom's yard, I want you to spit again onto your hands. After that, you are supposed to throw the soil into the yard." I did as I had been instructed to do by that pastor. After I had entered into my mom's yard and after I had sprinkled the soil all over the place, but I quickly did it before my mom and her sister could see me. After I had done that, I then saw a big black cat that was running at the back of the house. But as far as I knew, our neighbor didn't have a cat, and on the other side, our neighbor also didn't have a cat. My mom was someone who hated cats. She didn't want to keep cats. And at the back of the Jurao, there was a bushy area. There were no people who were staying there. When I arrived at the place where I had left my mother and her sister sitting, I then lied to them that I had a stomach ache. So I first went to the toilet because the pastor had sent me a message after I had finished sprinkling the soil. So I wanted to go to a private place so that I can fully understand and read the message whilst I was alone. So I quickly rushed to the toilet and I started to read the message that had some instructions on the things that I was supposed to do. These instructions were sent to me by that same pastor. The pastor had told me that I was supposed to look for any of my aunt's clothes so that he can use any of her personal items for some prayers whilst I'll be holding her personal items. So after I had read that message when I was in the toilet, I then rushed to my mother's bedroom and I started looking for any of my aunt's clothes. Just as the pastor had asked me to do, I looked into her small suitcase which she had brought when she had came to visit my mother, and I saw that in that suitcase most of her clothes, they were almost like brand new, and there was nothing that I could cut from those clothes. For the pastor, he had told me that I was supposed to cut a small piece, and after he had said some prayers, I was supposed to burn it. When I saw that if I tried to cut any of the clothes that were in a small suitcase, it would be so suspicious. So what I did is that I went outside and I gave her the airtime. Then I went into my room and I took off the decent clothes that I was wearing. I then went outside just wearing a t-shirt and a skin tight, and then I told my mom that I wanted to go next door so that I can speak with that woman who had recently directed me to that pastor. My auntie, being very predictable, she then rose up from where she was sitting. Then she said, "You cannot be walking around as if you are still in London. This is very disrespectful. Don't you know that you are back home here in Africa? You need to respect your body." So she gave me her old African waist wrap skirt. In Zim, we call it Zambia. After she had given me a African print waist wrap skirt, I then wrapped it so as to cover that small skin tight that I was wearing. Then I went next door to that woman who had taken me to her pastor, and I told her what the pastor had told me to do. Dear listeners, right there was a translation, and we are still translating the voice note that was sent to me by our dear sister. Just a friendly reminder, if you decide to send us your confession using a WhatsApp voice note, please try to do so when you are in a quiet environment.